Welcome to all. The chairman of this session is Professor Sergio Art. Please start.
Maybe we can turn out the lights. We have enough light from the window here. Let's turn out the light.
Wait, don't I have to tell who you are? I mean,
you know, let me tell you a story. I'll start with a story, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
That's what you had.
Yeah, okay. So I'd like to...
You are going to be delighted by the talk.
First of all... Okay. First of all, I'd like to say that I had a sort of it's not a deja vu, but a sort of a senior moment last night, in which I said, "Oh well, there's this conference tomorrow. I'm going to see Jean-François tomorrow." So and then I caught myself, yeah, but in a sense, I think he's really here. In fact, he's giving a paper here, right? One of the papers is by Jean-François Mertens, a joint paper with somebody, I've forgotten who it is, but one of the papers. Huh? Gosner, okay.
So he's presenting more than one.
We had this very good picture on the wait a minute. What is? How do we get rid of this? איך מתפטרים מזה?
Okay, escape.
Escape, okay. So, I've known Jean-François for 68, about 45 years. 45 years. And so in a sense, he's really, like I read over here, I feel about him as my Jean-François. In a sense, he's a student. Because he didn't do his PhD with me, but I'll tell afterwards a little bit about the relationship, the scientific relationship, and also the personal relationship between Jean-François and me. I'd like to comment on two lines in this slide. One is that I call it Mertens Festival, not the Mertens Memorial, okay? It's a festival. I have had the misfortune of losing 4 loved people in my life, and we have in our tradition, there's a week of mourning when you sit at home and people come to visit you, and very often it's thought of as a sad affair, and all kinds of tricks are used to make it as short as possible. But in my case, I always saw it as a festival, as a celebration of the person's life, the person who passed away, a celebration of his life. So I think of this gathering as a celebration of the life of Jean-François. So it's a festival, it's not a memorial. And the second item that I want to emphasize over here is the word "my," which I put in italic. And this has a very vivid personal meaning, but it also it also describes the lecture. Jean-François had a huge mathematical and game theoretic legacy. It's enormous. And I have to admit that I know about only a small part of it. Okay? So, and I think it's a significant part, but maybe it's not the most important part. So what I'm going to present over here is what stayed in my head, what I know about Jean-François, what I know about his oeuvre, and other people, may know other things. And I think this conference, which will present follow-up to his work, I think will illuminate other parts of his contributions to science. This jumped by itself, but I'd like to give you it's not a menu. Yes, it's a, you go into restaurants and sometimes you can order a steak or you can order a piece of fish or whatever it is. But sometimes they say, we'd like to give you a tasting menu. Okay, so you get a little bit of each. So this is what I'm going to give you, maybe a little bit of each of some of Jean-François' work. And maybe even, you're not going to be able to eat it at all. You're only going to be able to see it. I'll let you, tasting menu, or maybe perhaps better would be a looking menu, and we'll go over fast some of the things. So some personal vignettes. I think because I don't have very much time, I'm going to skip over this for another occasion during the coming few days. And we have 4 items really that I'd like to go into in a little, just serve them on the table so that you can look at them. I don't know whether you'll be able to taste them. There won't be time. Maybe it's like the waiter bringing the stuff, bringing the plate, and then you pick up your fork and then he comes and whisks it away. There's something like that. Repeated games with incomplete information, and that's my first contact with Jean-François. I remember driving along one of the Belgian roads and telling him about this, and he caught on amazingly fast. I mean, really amazingly fast. And within 5 minutes, I explained to him the whole theory of repeated games with incomplete information on one side, and he caught on in 5 minutes. Yes, and he went on to the next thing, as we'll see right away. And stochastic games, in which he made very important contributions. Shapley values of non-atomic games, which he to a large extent, after the book by Lloyd and Your Humble Servant, he really shaped this subject. Strategic stability, which is the name of the game in what's it called? Refinement. Sorry, thank you. Another senior moment, and the canonical interactive belief systems there, the Mertens Zamir stuff. So just very briefly. So some personal vignettes, as I said. If I have time at the end, I'll mention some of them. If not, at some dinner or something like that. Okay. We'll go on to repeated 2-person zero-sum games with incomplete information. Let's, I hope you can see this. I tried to put a lot of material into one slide so that the slide should be before you. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea. Anyway, can this be seen from the last row? Yes, ACDA and the Geneva conferences. This business started in the mid-60s, about 50 years ago, when we were asked, a group of us, including Mike Maschler, Dick Stearns, Gerard Debreu, Herbert Scarf, Jim Maybury, Harold Kuhn, were asked to look at the situation of the arms control and disarmament. This was the height of the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the United States, and there were these Geneva conferences for trying to bring the arms race under control. And they had them every year or something like that, again and again and again. They had the Geneva conferences, and the question was how many. The question was to try to control the number of nuclear weapons that were being deployed, and one of the things that was typical of this, that I identified this situation, was that the United States did not really know how many nuclear weapons the Soviet Union had, and the Soviet Union didn't know how many nuclear weapons the United States had. So this was a repeated game of incomplete information. It wasn't a zero-sum game, but when you deal with game theory, you start out by saying, well, let's look at the zero-sum case first, and then you, if you can do something with the zero-sum case, then maybe you can do something with the more general cases. But so we started out looking at repeated zero-sum games with incomplete information. Now, this case of the ACDA, the Arms Control and Disarmament Agency of the United States, is a situation with incomplete information on both sides. But starting out with two-person zero-sum games, we said, okay, let's take it one at a time. Let's look at when there is incomplete information on one-sided incomplete information. In other words, we have two players. They're playing a game repeatedly, the same game they play repeatedly. They get to know what the outcome of the game is. So they get to know after each Geneva conference, you know what agreement was decided on. But one side has information that the other side does not have, okay? And this is a theory developed by Mike Mashler, may he rest in peace, and your humble servant, around 1966, maybe 1967, something like that. And as I said, I explained this theory to Jean-François. Now, the result that we obtained was that to the extent that the information is used, you know something, the pictures, the picture taking slightly disturbs me. So take your pictures, I'll wait, and then, אתה מבין עברית, מה? Okay. מה? Huh? Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, you can take before, after, whatever. Okay, I think, thank you very much. Well, you can take with other speakers. Okay, so our basic result was that you can't use the information without eventually revealing it, you know, in a long term. So if you take a certain bargaining stance in the Geneva conferences, then your bargaining stance, what you insist on, reveals how many nuclear weapons you have. Okay, so to the extent that the information is used, it is eventually revealed. If you can reveal all the information immediately, if you want to give it away, if you want to use it and it's worthwhile for you to use it, you can hide it, but then you can't use it, or you can hint at it. You can partially reveal it. But this sentence sums it up. And now, technically, what are the results that we got? The infinite stage game, okay, so if you repeat it infinitely often, and we'll talk very soon about what this means, an infinite stage game. There is no such thing as an infinite stage game, right? Wrong. There is such a thing. and we'll talk about what this means. But for the moment, let's just say that the infinite stage game has a value, a minimax value, okay? So, and we call that V infinity. The values of the end stage game, so you take the you take each stage, you take the payoffs to a game that is repeated exactly n times. You take the payoff to that, you average the payoffs, you call the value of that game Vn, and that converges to a limit. That's what Masha and I showed. And that limit is the value of the infinite stage game. Okay. Now, I explained this, as I said, in 5 minutes, this whole theory, to Jean-François as we were riding in a car somewhere in Belgium near Louvain-la-Vieille. Louvain-la-Vieille, yes. Not Louvain-la-Neuve. Louvain-la-Neuve didn't exist yet. This is the late 60s, okay? 68, 69, something like that. Okay?
It took him 5 minutes because he was driving.
That didn't bother him. It didn't bother him. I'll tell some stories about Jean-François driving. It's a miracle he survived so long. So this is, and he together with Shmuel Zamir went on to develop the same game, and now we get really to the two-sided to the situation in the ACDA and the Geneva conferences, because neither side knew how many nuclear weapons the other side had. And now, what was found in that situation? First of all, the infinite stage game need not have a value, and that was even before Jean-François came on the scene. This is a result which was obtained by your humble servant and Mike Mashler and Dick Stearns, who later went on to win the Turing Prize in computer science. The infinite stage game need not have a value. And the reason is that when you have infinitely many stages, each side waits for the other. Okay, we said before that you can't, to the extent that the information is used, it is eventually revealed. But each side waits for the other to use his information, so reveal. And so they're waiting, and never anything happens. And if one side breaks down and suddenly uses information, you get the max min, and if the other side waits, then you get the min max, and they are different. Okay, so whichever side uses its information first loses out, and that's why you get a lack of value, get no value in that situation. Now, the question arose: does the limit of Vn exist? You see, before we said the limit of the Vn's converge, and the limit is the value of the infinite. Here, there is no value of the infinite stage game. So maybe the end stage game does not have a limit, and Mike and I and Dick Stearns thought, and we couldn't solve this problem. See, because that's different. Over there, each side cannot wait for the other side, because you have to stop at n. You can't wait for the other side to reveal its information, because the game has a given finite duration, okay? So Vn certainly exists. And what about the limit of that? And the answer is yes. And the answer is Mertens Zamir was given in 1972. The limit does indeed exist. Now, I put Mertens 71? No, it was published in 72. I have news for you. Okay. Yes.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
The first issue of the first volume of
Maybe, all right, I stand corrected, but meet me outside afterwards. Okay. Okay, so that's the end, and I apologize for not putting Zamir in red over here, but there's certainly authors of absolutely equal standing in this. But you know, this is the Mertens Festival, and I hope we're not going to put Zamir in red in the near future. Okay. And that's going to be the rule throughout this talk. All right. Now, the partial reason is, since the horizon is finite, there's no time to wait, as I said, but that still doesn't mean that there is a limit, but there is indeed a limit. With discounting, if you don't have a finite, horizon, not finitely, but the future gets less and less important as you go. So there's also, in a sense, there is a finite duration, and you also get the same limit when the discount rate tends to 0. Now, Jean-François made a lot of other very deep contributions to repeated game theory, but you know, here's, I put the plate on the table, and the waiter, I'm going to whisk it away now. You can't eat more than what you've already eaten of his contribution. He's absolutely a giant. I mean, every field that he touched, he in a sense formed the field. He made major contributions to it. He's really, you know, I don't want to make comparisons, but absolutely a giant in mathematical game theory. That was his field. Okay. Next, we come to stochastic games. Now, a stochastic game is like a repeated game. Okay, you play a game again and again, but the underlying stage game, the game that you repeat, may change from period to period, depending on what the players have done at previous stages. Current actions determine not only current payoffs, but also future opportunities. What you do now determines, it could be stochastically, probabilistically, but it goes far to determining what game you play in the future. Okay, that's a stochastic game. Shapley, 1953, formulated stochastic two-person zero-sum games and showed that the value of the discounted game exists for fixed delta, and indicated how to calculate it. He wrote down a functional equation for the value of the discounted stochastic game for fixed delta. Now, but what happens now when the discount goes to 0? Yes, what happens to the average payoff when the discount goes to 0? And this was a problem that stayed open for a very long time. And then Bewley and Kohlberg, in 1976, I hope that's the right date, showed, anyway, that's the publication date that I have for this, showed that the limit, just like the limit of V delta exists when you're talking about repeated games of incomplete information, they showed that the limit of V delta and the limit of Vn exist and are equal, but they did not show that V infinity exists. The Bewley-Kohlberg paper is a marvel of deep mathematical insights, uses the theory of functions of a complex variable to prove something in a game theory. Is really beautiful, but they did not succeed in showing that V infinity exists. And again, I'm going to talk very shortly about what this V infinity is. What are we talking about? So V infinity is actually a very important item. In some sense, more important than a limit of Vn. So finally, Mertens and Aumann proved that V infinity does indeed exist and equals the limit of the Vn. And this is a two-person zero-sum case. Using the methods of Shapley and Bewley-Kohlberg, Mertens subsequently showed that non-zero sum delta discounted stochastic games do have equilibria in stationary strategies whose payoffs converge as delta as the discount rate goes to 0. As a stationary strategy is a strategy which, given the same situation, when players are faced with the same situation as you go through the infinite or the sequence of plays, given the same situation, a player will behave in the same way. Okay, that's what stationary means. It doesn't. You can't have stationary strategies in a finite stage game because the stage where you are, how many stages you've already played, how many are to the end of the game, does play an important role. So if you are given, you can't be given the same situation. You can put it that way. But the situation differs according to the stage number. But in a discounted game, that is not the case. But unlike in the zero-sum case, the limit need not correspond to an equilibrium in the undiscounted game. So in a sense, you do not have the analog of V infinity equals the limit of Vn. So the underlying central theorem in this area is the fourth bullet, Mertens and Aumann, V infinity exists. Let me just say something about the significance of these terms, V infinity, lim Vn, and lim V delta. Okay, you didn't give me the 30-minute flash. You didn't flash the 30 minutes, but okay, fine. All right. We won't argue. So optimal strategies in the infinite stage game are approximately optimal in each sufficiently long finite stage game. So when you say that V infinity exists, what you're saying is play optimally in V infinity and don't pay too much attention to how long the game is. As long as it's really long, you're going to be near optimal, okay? So it doesn't really have to be an infinite stage game. That's what this is. So if a player knows that the game is long, but he doesn't know how long, then he should play to get V infinity. Optimal strategies in the end stage game depend crucially on n. Okay, so you have to know how long it is. So in the delta discounted game, it's like the end stage game in that its effective duration is finite when you look and when you discount. When you think of the discount as a stopping probability, then you have an expected finite time. But it's unlike the end stage game in that, in two ways. First of all, it admits stationary strategies, which in the end stage game, like I said, you don't. And it rules out pathological end effects. Like in the, n times repeated prisoner's dilemma, you have to move, for an equilibrium, you have to move selfishly double-cross, what is called double-cross in the last stage, and then you work your way backwards, and this is not really, it's an end effect, and that you don't have in the thing. Now we have Shapley values of non-atomic games, and this is a very important subject to which Jean-François made tremendous contributions. I mean, to a large extent, he, in fact, formed this area. Well, I have to admit that Shapley and your humble servant also had something to do with it, but after the book of Shapley and me, Jean-François really shaped this area. But I have only 13 minutes, and I think this being more technical than the other areas, I'm going to skip this for the time being and get back to it perhaps later. Okay? Just gaze at this for a moment. We put it on the plate, and now the waiter takes it away. Okay? Now we have strategic stability, which is the creation of Elon Kohlberg and Jean-François. So Kohlberg and Mertens call a Nash equilibrium of a strategic game strategically stable. So a Nash equilibrium sigma of a strategic game G, they call it strategically stable if, roughly speaking, there are a number of caveats in here which I'm not going to get into, okay? Every game close to G has an equilibrium. Every game close, not some games, but every game close to G has an equilibrium close to sigma, okay? And they prove, again, roughly speaking, that every game has a strategically stable equilibrium. And to do so, they first show that for a given game size, the graph of the equilibrium correspondence, when compactified with a point at infinity, is homeomorphic to the sphere of games when similarly compactified. Okay, let's not worry about the compactification at this moment. Just think of the space of all you would think of games of a given size. Think of a game of a given size, let's say 6 by 18 matrix. It has 3 players. So in the 6 by 18 matrix, you have 3 players. How much is 6 times 18? I took too large a number. 30 times 20 matrix. Yes, I'm no good at math. So we have a matrix with 600 entries, 3 players, 1,800. The space of such games is Euclidean space of dimension 1,800. Okay, and now the equilibria in this space. The equilibria in this space are also something. They are something in 1,800 space, because you have to give in a mixed strategy. You have to give a probability. No, they are something in 20. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, it's some space. You have mixed strategies of player 1, of player 2, player 3. Okay, and you have strategies. You have equilibria of this, and we know that many games can have multiple equilibria. So now what happens here? Escape? Okay, fine. Okay. Oh, I see. I turned it. So what we have over here is, let's say, the space of games. This is the space of games. And now we have a specific game, and this game could have, let's say, 3 equilibria. Okay? Now, what Kohlberg and Mertens did was to look not at a specific game, but at the space of all the games. Okay, so and they showed that on top of each game, the set of its equilibria. they showed that when you graph those equilibria, you get something which is homeomorphic to, okay, and maybe then now it goes up again, okay? You get something which is homeomorphic to the original space down below, okay? It's, so to speak, a single line. In this case, it's not a single line, but it's a single 1,800 space or something like that, yes? Now, what do we want? We want that in games close to the original game, like here and here, there should be an equilibrium close to this equilibrium, all right? So we have here, indeed, we have to this equilibrium, we have something close, an equilibrium close. To this equilibrium on top of this game, we have something close. And to this equilibrium, we also have something close, right? So it would seem that all equilibria are stable, but it's not that way. Because look at this one. Okay? Now over here, when you go over here, then indeed we have equilibria close to this equilibrium, and equilibria close to this equilibrium, and equilibria close to this equilibrium. But when you go to the other side, then we have equilibria close to this one, but not equilibria close to this one. There's no equilibrium here. Okay? So this is not stable. And this one is a stable equilibrium. So there's always a stable equilibrium. Yes, that follows from this homeomorphism theorem. Okay? There's always a stable equilibrium. All right. That's the idea of the proof. We can put the thing back. No more blackboard. Okay. Subsequently, Mertens and Mertens-Govinden revised and perfected this definition, and we got homology and cohomology and all the brilliant and the complicated and beautiful ideas of algebraic topology entering into game theory. So here's another area in which Jean-François was instrumental. He really shaped the area. And strategic stability has perhaps become the most widely accepted equilibrium we find. The last item that I want to touch on is the canonical interactive belief spaces. Games of incomplete information a la Hassani. Hassani in the late 60s showed that addressed the problem of games of incomplete information, namely that in game theory up to then, people had assumed that the game is known and that each player knows the payoff functions of the other player. But this obviously is not a viable assumption. So you say, well, I don't know the payoffs of the other player, but I do know, I have some idea of what his payoffs might be. I have some beliefs about it. And then, but it's also important, I realize also that the other player has beliefs about me. So it's important for me to know what those beliefs are, and I don't know what they are, so I have beliefs about the beliefs and so on. We get an infinite regress of beliefs. Now, Hassani devised a way of generating this infinite regress, exactly what the beliefs about the beliefs are, with a theory of types. A type is something which each player has a certain type, and then that type determines what his payoff function is, and it also determines his probability distribution on the other player's types. And just when you get there, so you can think of a finite number of types for each player, 2 or 3 or 4, yeah. And when you have this, and when you specify the type and what each type thinks about the other person's types, then you get this generates the whole infinite regress of beliefs, and beliefs about beliefs, and beliefs about beliefs about beliefs, and so on. And the question was open for a very long time whether any coherent system of beliefs about beliefs, infinite system of beliefs about beliefs, could be generated by a type structure of the type that Hassani had envisioned. And this question was open for a very long time, and eventually this was this remains to this day a paper of a result of great importance. So the question is, can any coherent infinite regress of beliefs be generated by appropriate type spaces? What do I mean by coherent? By coherent, I mean that the second, third order beliefs must generate the first order beliefs. You can't have the beliefs contradicting each other. But if the beliefs are coherent in some such sense, can they be generated by appropriate type spaces? And the answer is yes. This was proved by an article by Matan Zamir. And again, I wish. Okay. You agree? You agree? Okay. And I always end my lectures when I am in abroad. I end them by writing thank you in the language of the country where I am. So I just came back from Russia a couple of weeks ago, and I wrote Spasibo in the Cyrillic alphabet on the screen. And then I went to Kazakhstan and I wrote Rahmet on the screen. So here I say Toda, thank you.
Any questions? Something was not clear?